Kia ora, and welcome to Thursday's Economy Watch, where we follow the economic events and trends that affect Aotearoa. I'm David Chaston, and this is the international edition from interest.co.nz, and today we lead with news retaliation on retaliation. Seems to be the order of the day in US tariff policy, exactly as observers had expected. The whole thing is a no-win battle, and a repeat of a history lesson that failed the first time, one that should be noted that resulted in the 1929 Depression. Both Canada and the EU responded with retaliatory tariffs on imports from the US. Washington threatened more of them for responding. Separately in the US, lower energy costs brought their CPI inflation rate down to 2.8% in February from 3% in January. This was a better result than expected. A year ago, CPI inflation was running at 3.2% and decreasing when it dropped to 2.4% in September. But no one expects the dip to last as the tariff costs get passed on to consumers. Another fall in the long-term US benchmark interest rates brought another healthy rise in mortgage applications last week, up an 11% at an annual rate from the prior week. Again, it was a continuing sharp surge in refinance activity, up 16%, that drove the increase, rather than new lending, which only rose 4%. And there was another well-supported US Treasury bond auction overnight, this one for their 10-year maturity. It resulted in a median yield of 4.27%, sharply lower than the 4.56% at the prior equivalent event a month ago. Safe haven demand is strong. And the Bank of Canada cut its key interest rate by 25 basis points to 2.75% in its March decision, as expected and previously signalled, to mark 225 basis points in cuts since the start of its loosening cycle in June 2024. More rate cuts are expected, especially now they can see a major economic bump coming from the tariff war. And Japanese PPI is still rising at 4% year-on-year in February, reinforcing how embedded inflation has now become in Japan, and probably at a higher level than they're comfortable with. It's the sixth straight month it's exceeded 3%. In China, their national set-piece policy meetings adopted a 4% to GDP debt limit, but even local observers pointed out that this will end up far higher than what will actually turn out in 2025. They will need massive new debt to achieve their 5% growth target. That much more debt creates a local government honeypot rush. India's CPI inflation rate fell sharply in February, down from 4.3% in January to 3.6% in February, a fall larger than the 4% expected. The pace of the drop in food price inflation drove the moderation. This will probably lead to more rate cuts by their central bank. On the other hand, India's industrial production rose faster than expected. It was expected to be 3.5% higher in January than a year ago, matching the December expansion, but in fact it came in 5% higher. In Greenland, the 56,000 mostly Inuit voters have chosen the opposition centre-right pro-business party as their new government, and they've declared that they don't want to be American, or Danes for that matter. Also rising was Russian CPI inflation, which came in at 10.1% in February, up from 9.9% in January, driven by an 11.7% rise in food prices there. In an extension of targeting friends, the US confirmed there will be no exemptions for tariffs on Australian steel and aluminium. Of course, the US still expects those it offends to keep buying US products and services. The US Treasury 10-year yield is now at 4.30%, up 4 basis points from this time yesterday. And the price of gold will start today at just over $2,933 an ounce, up another $17 from yesterday. And oil prices are up $1 at just over $67.50 a barrel in the US, while the international Brent price is now just under $71 a barrel. And the Kiwi dollar is now at 57.3 US cents and up 20 basis points from yesterday. Against the Aussie, however, we're unchanged at 90.8 Australian cents. Against the euro, we're up 20 basis points at 52.5 euro cents. That all means our trade-weighted index starts today at just under 66.5 and up 20 basis points from yesterday. And the Bitcoin price starts today at $82,161 and up 1% from yesterday. Volatility over the past 24 hours has been moderate at plus or minus 2%. You can find links to the articles mentioned today in our show notes, and you can get more news affecting the economy in New Zealand from interest.co.nz. Kia ora, I'm David Chaston, and we'll do this again tomorrow.